Hăīre, φίλε, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 5, verses 41 through 44. But first, a quick update, and also happy Easter to Monday. There might not be a video next week, depending on whether or not I have time to record the Latin. This week is what's known as assignment and call night here. I'm not getting a call, sticking around for another year. But that means a lot of people are going to be in town, be loud. I'm going to be, in addition to classes, run all over the place. Anyway, possibly no Latin next week. Let's take a look at what happened before. Nice and short review this week. Here is our rubric. Let's get started. Doxon para anthropon ou lambano, al egnoka homas hoti tein agapen tu theou uk ekete in heautois, ego elelutha en toi onomati tu patros mu, kai ou lambanete me. Eon alos elthe en toi onomati toi idioi, ekenon lempsethe, that was hard, pos dunaste, humes pisteusai doxon para alelon lambanontes kai tein doxon tein para tu monu theu u ze teite. My Hebrew work getting little eraser granules all over the place. Taking a look at verse 41, we see immediately that doxon is not our verb. We do have a prepositional phrase immediately following it. Para taking the genitive, probably because anthropon's omega nu there. But if we look ahead, negative with a verb, so yeah, para has to be taking the genitive, closing the prepositional phrase there. This is going to be plural, masculine. Our verb is the first principal part of lambano, so we don't need to parse it. And then doxon has to be functioning as the object of lambano with alpha nu, accusative, singular, feminine. Para, when it's taking the genitives, means from with the idea of source. So similar to the genitive of source in Latin. And this is still Jesus speaking. 42, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that before writing down the translation. Al agnoka, here we have a verb. Kappa alpha should indicate to us that this is going to be a first person singular. This comes from gnosko, egnos, that's I started jumping into errors. Gnosko, I don't remember the future. And then ginomai, that's gignomai. Gnosko, noka. You know what? I can't remember the principal parts of this verb, which is unfortunate, except the first principal part. And my notes are telling me that this is the perfect, which is unusual because there should be another gamma there, but this is not a normal forming verb, apparently. So singular, perfect because of the kappa, active, and indicative, and I think really the only way that you could distinguish it from the aorist, because the aorist would probably also have a kappa for this verb, would be knowing the principal parts, which I don't, as is so often the case. This one means to know. It's intimate knowledge of. In this case, I think mind reading, knowing Jesus. Humas, alpha sigma for accusative, plural, common, in this case referring masculine, the scribes and Pharisees here, I believe. But hoti, subordinate clause, tein, eta nu, these two go together for accusative, singular, feminine, direct object of what? Tu theou, that omicron upsilon with the genitive, singular, masculine, owning, agapein, godly love, makes sense. Negating and verb, ete, verb taking agapein as its object. This is a second person plural. Not a third. Second person plural. Present tense is ek, it's the stem, active, and indicative. Prepositional phrase ending this verse with omicron iota sigma, telling us that n is taking the dative case. Prior to voice failure, I was going to point out that this epsilon is the reflexive indicator for our pronoun. So you yourselves, in yourselves, do not have tein agapein. Moving into verse 43, ego unnecessary personal pronoun, therefore emphatic. Elelutha, this comes from erkomai, which I should probably write down. So it's deponent in the present tense. Erkomai, eleusumai, elelutha. This is one I do actually know. So this is, no, erkomai, eleusumai, elthon, elelutha. They're perfect tense. We know perfect tense because we got the reduplication with the lambda. We've got the theta here. And it's pretty weird, but deponent. Already talking about weird stuff. This is another first person, just as the first one up here was. So I'm going to draw this down through the U. Oops. And because if this were the perfect middle, it'd be the typical ones we see, main or my. So this is not middle like it's first person. Not that's first person. It's present tense. But this means to come. I myself have come in prepositional phrase. Subiota of the article tells us that it is taking the dative. What's the object? Onomati, which makes sense. And then we got genitive, patros, genitive again, owned by a further genitive, not the adjectival form, but the pronominal. That's probably the wrong term. Pronoun form. So prepositional phrase ends with the dative, though to patros owns it. Kai, conjunction u lambanete, epsilon tau epsilon for our second person plural. So I'm just going to pull this down with the present stem. Don't need to parse it. Me is going to be the accusative singular common as the object of lambanete, but we know it's referring to Jesus. And I'll wait to get to the conditional clause until writing all this down. Then into our conditional clause, we got the aeon if, allos, omicron, sigma is going to be nominative, singular, masculine, and our verb right here, also from erkomai as elelutha, except this one is the aorist tense, eta, sub iota, tells us that it's the subjunctive, so that's going to be third, because allos, changing subject from Jesus to a new person, third, singular, aorist, active, subjunctive. It's one of the new hot days of summer almost. Everything's sticking to my hands. Prepositional phrase, because unaspiration mark, or not aspiration mark. Toi, subiota again, plus dative. It's going to be the same form as onomati here. But in this case, we get toi, idioi, so in his own name. Get the term idiot from this, but don't necessarily think of the same meaning. It just means hitting one's own, belonging to the very one. Prepositional phrase closes after the adjective. Don't need to parse that, but dative, singular, neuter. It's an adjective showing possession. Kainon, omicron, nu. This is the farther demonstrative. So it's referring back to him as opposed to Jesus, which makes some sense, though what I would think, and this shows my ignorance, of course, is that this would be pointing us further away in the sentence to a previously mentioned subject. But it doesn't make sense in the context for this to be pointing all the way back to me. Instead, allos makes the most sense. So instead, I think that Jesus is using this further demonstrative because he's got the future tense of lambano here. Lambano, lemsomai, its deponent. Este is the second person plural. Future, as I've already said. Middle deponent. Indicative. And note that we've got the future mixed with a subjunctive, and therefore we just have a future conditional. If you did not receive, if another one did come, then you would receive him. And he's got a kainon because this is talking about a time in the future. Is this speaking about a specific time? Yes, but no, I would think. We've got a number of people who come after Jesus claiming to be Jesus. Today we've got a number of people claiming to be Jesus who are not Jesus, and people do believe them, and I don't understand why. Anyway, there's that. I'm going to write down the translation and join you again shortly. Into 44 then, pos, hal, dunaste, second person, plural again, dunamai. And this is another one where I don't remember the principal parts, but I think this is the present dunamai. Yeah, it would be present because there's no stem change, there's no vowel, it's just an alpha right there. my sai tai metheste, and I don't even think this is subjunctive, or could it be with pos? O my etai. Oh gosh, now I'm mixing up my Latin and my Greek. I'm pretty sure that this is just an indicative, except that the alpha, it should be O, the typical form is omicron, epsilon, epsilon. Yeah, my, o my, etai, esai, o metha, este, ontai, for the indicative, which means since we have an alpha, we don't have contraction because the acute is right there. So yeah, I think this has got to be a present subjunctive, which makes sense going with pos, a hypothetical question. Humes, unnecessary preposition, nominative, plural, emphatic, common. Pisteusai, sigma alpha iota is the infinitive form off of the aorist tense. Really, it's the alpha iota with the sigma being the change in the stem. There's no augmenting vowel because this is not an indicative, but instead one of the other moods. So how are you all able to believe doxan, glory, accusative, nu, as we saw before, singular, feminine, para, prepositional phrase, alelon. Para is taking the genitive because lambanontes can't be the object of para, so that closes that. It's going to have the same meaning, so from. Alelon means one another, so plural. And this is going to be masculine because there's no circumflex over the omega, and he's speaking to men predominantly. There's no indication that there are any women there. Largely irrelevant. Lambano, so we have the present stem of this one. Omicron, nu, tau is the participial ending. Epsilon, sigma for the nominative plural. So how are you all able to believe receiving glory from one another? So lambanontes is taking doxon as its object. Dunaste pisteusai. And this is a subordinate clause right here. Kai, tain, glory, don't need to parse that, we've already got it beforehand. Tain, the specific glory. Para, genitive again. Tu monu, the only God. U is a negating our verb there, so prepositional phrase closes this. Genitive, singular, masculine, plus genitive, so same function as this para and that para. And then zetete, this comes from zetao. Note that we've got the circumflex indicating a contraction. This is going to be epsilon plus epsilon equaling the diphthong a. The accent would fall typically on this epsilon because this is the ultima, penult, antepenult. The accent goes as far left as possible. The two contract together. The accent becomes long with the long vowel. This one means to seek. And it's present tense, sorry. So after writing down the translation, I took a look again at dunaste, and it turns out that I am completely wrong. Subjunctive is not correct. It's dunamai, it's not dunamai with omicron. So the alpha is normal, and this is in fact indicative. It doesn't need to be subjunctive with the post. That is my error. But let's take a look at this in its own context now. Glory for men I do not receive or accept, but I have known you that the love of God you do not have in yourselves. I myself have come in the name of my Father, and you do not receive or accept me. If another came in his own name, that one you would receive. How are you able yourselves to believe, receiving glory from one another? And the glory, which is, or the glory, the one specific to, from the only God, you do not seek. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good and a very happy Easter 2, or I forget when the numbers actually begin. Yeah, this has got to be Easter 2 now, because last Sunday was Easter, so Easter 1 goes up through Saturday. Sunday begins Easter 2. So it'll be Easter 2 until this Saturday, and then it'll be Easter 3 when I might finally have time to record a Latin video, though not likely. Anyway, farewell.